Today on Coder Conversations is Ethan Herzog, on air talent and broadcaster. I'm your host, Kevin.
And I'm Brian.
You're now tuned in to Coder Conversations. It's a pleasure to have you on, Ethan.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, Ethan, thanks for coming on tonight.
Of course.
Absolutely. So, can you, just to get things kicked off, can you give us a little bit about your background? Let our audience know exactly what you've been doing these days.
Yeah, so I am a television and radio play-by-play announcer. I've been going on 5 years now. I started when I was 18. I am going on 23 now. I've been doing anything from high school to football. Well, I've done high school football, but high school, college, professional, semi-pro, things like that. I do both on air and behind the camera as well. I do a lot of production. I direct and produce for ESPN. I've done soccer and baseball as well. But I do a lot. I'm not scared to, get my feet wet and things that, maybe a little daunting, but I just love sports, man. Sports are great.
That's got to be pretty cool.
Oh, it's a little scary when you sit in that chair for the first time and you're like, oh, there's so many screens and so many voices in your head, and you're like,
and then everyone's relying on you.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, okay, where do I take my direction? And you're the guy to go, the go-to guy.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, just like we were talking about prior to coming on, you have that like real broadcastery voice, and as you mentioned, that's something that you kind of developed, but you already had some of it in you. So can you tell us how you got it to your voice to the level that it is now?
I think just practice, really. I started doing this when I was 18, and but prior to that, I also did a lot of musical theater and things like that. So I kind of found my voice doing plays and musicals as well. And then high school came around and I started to do it a little bit more. And if you go back and if you can find some of my old stuff, it sounds different, but it sounds like you can kind of tell it's me, but you're also like, is that the same thing? Nah, but it's taken a while. It's taken a good 5 years, but it's taken a lot of practice to get this to where it needs to be, and eliminating those filler words, the uhs, the ums, the all sorts of
the likes.
Yeah, the likes. That's a big one. I'm still working on that one too.
I'm still working on that too. It's very easy to just link sentences together with like.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how difficult it is to have just organic sound and dialogue. It comes with practice.
It does. And it comes with chemistry too. You have, and a big part of my job that I think a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of these announcers, when you go and you hear them on TV or hear them on radio, they're typically also, they're acquaintances, they're friends. They meet up, they'll get coffee and they'll talk beforehand, and they get to know each other before. And you can typically tell when an announcer's hopping on for the first time with somebody that they don't know, or someone that they've been calling games with for who knows how long.
Right.
Yeah, I personally believe like broadcasters are undersold, because like with any sporting event, they're probably at least 30 to 40% of what makes it entertaining in the first place. Like if you just mute the TV, you're probably going to fall asleep, but just broadcasting really livens things up.
Yeah, for sure. It adds a whole other dynamic, because on top of, all the exciting moments and things like that, it's a lot of just telling stories too. I've been calling Cincinnati women's basketball on the radio for 3 years now, and I've gotten to know a lot of the coaching staff and many different players have come and gone through the program. And there's so many interesting stories that people won't know unless there's somebody there to tell them. And it's one of the primary roles of not just the broadcaster, but the producer and the director to coordinate and tell those stories.
Yeah, like what do you believe goes into making just like a good, captivating story? Because I know anybody can present facts, but to make it something worthwhile, worth listening to, that's actually a skill.
I think a lot of it, on top of it, to go into it, it's a lot of how you present it, and a lot of times you'll look more for the human interest stories is what we like to call it. And it's a lot of just like how players got into the sport that they're playing, and telling the story of how they've overcome things, and getting people to relate to the player on a more personal level, as opposed to them just being athletes, because they aren't just athletes, they're humans as well. I mean, you look at some of the top players in the league in terms of the NFL, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, they're humans. They're people that, they have opinions, and I guess they have opinions, sure, but they also have lives, and they have families, and they have, things that go on in their lives, and finding ways for the audience and the fans to really get like close to them, I'll say with quotes, by telling that story is really important, especially, when telling a good story like that.
So if we were to take it back to the beginning, Ethan, how did you get your first job?
So I started way back in 2020, post COVID,
right?
COVID,
Yeah.
the post like shutdown. So all the schools were open and everybody was there. But sporting events were still limited capacity at that time because of COVID. And my athletic director at the time, Steve Rossi, and then my assistant athletic director, Brandon Spaeth, kind of collectively came to me and said, "Hey, we know you did this in the past. Would you like to come back and do it again?"
Yeah.
And kind of cater to the families that, can't come to the games. And I said, sure. And I think I did right around 100 games that my senior year of high school. I followed the football team until the state Final Four, into the regionals for volleyball, into the regionals for both girls and boys basketball. I did bowling, which was a whole different experience.
Wow,
I haven't touched bowling since, but I've done bowling before.
You're doing it all.
Yeah. But and then after that, I ended up getting accepted into the College Conservatory of Music at CCM at the University of Cincinnati, which most people know is a musical theater school, which rightfully so. But they have a media production program at CCM as well, and that's kind of where I live and have been pursuing my education for 5 years now. And through that, I met a lot of people who have connections at ESPN, and ended up calling my first game on the ESPN family of networks my freshman year of college.
That's exciting.
Did women's lacrosse against Liberty the spring of 2022, which was interesting. I knew nothing about lacrosse. I just winged it, which sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to
it works, right?
You have to cram yourself with all the rules and all the lingo and all that stuff, and hope that you can put on a good show. And I got a lot of praise for it, especially being thrown in there as a freshman in college, fresh out of high school.
And that's probably people probably test you, like, let's just see what this guy can do.
Yeah, that would, which I'm glad that they did. I'm glad that was the sport that I began on, at least on a television standpoint. Because it really tested me. It tested what I could do in terms of not just research, but also just my confidence level going into that game. It was really, it was a fun time, to put it simply. And I mean, I've been doing lacrosse now for 4 years. At the university. So I've seen this team go from the American Athletic Conference into the Big 12, and it's been one hell of a jump, I'll say. But it's been a fun one, and I'm very thankful for what I've learned and what the opportunities I've been given.
Nice.
Can you kind of walk us through the emotions you felt calling your first game? I know there had to be a lot of anticipation, anxiety, but how were you able to work through that and just do a great job?
I confide in my mother a lot. And I will typically call her either before or after games all the time, and she is typically the voice of reason for me, and being like, "Hey, you'll be fine. You'll as mothers do. They know their kids more than their kids even know themselves." But a lot of it goes down to that, and I mean, just being prepared really made me feel confident going into these games. I mean, I will spend coming up to a broadcast on a 7-day week. I'll probably spend 4 to 5 hours a day prepping on a good day.
Wow.
And it's kind of in between, I'll be on my computer and I'll be looking at game notes, and on other occasions I'll end up having coaches calls and being able to talk with the coaches and the staff, get to know about the team, the players, and I'll find out all sorts of things from just like, my My gosh, my train of thought is gone. It's been a very busy week for me.
Yeah, imagine that you have to remember all the last names and the different lingo from sport to sport.
So I will say, as I look for something, actually, don't mind me as I reach down here. Remembering the last names is probably one of the easier parts because you have these fantastic things called spot boards, and you can write down all of the stuff that, it's players' names and player stats and stories about them and things like that. But the lingo's really something that people struggle with a lot. And like I have files that I've found that have different things for different sports. I have one for basketball that I kind of glance at every once in a while just to kind of refresh myself, be like, what's this part of the court called? What should I say in this scenario? Because sometimes I want to be more creative and I'm just stuck in that block and I can't figure out a way to say this thing that I want, where I say one thing way too many times and I'm like, man, I should find something different to say. So I go and I either consult that or I go to one of my other friends who also calls basketball. I'm like, hey, what should I say? Because I need something else to say at this point. But
yeah, that is like one of the unspoken truths about like being an on-air talent is you have to be very careful that you're not turning the audience off by being overly repetitive or telling the same story. There's a lot of nuances there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, that as well as you can't really get too excited about everything. Not every play is the game-winning pass of the Super Bowl or the final strikeout of the World Series. So you have to pick and choose, and usually you can feel like when you're in the arena or in the stadium, what moment feels the biggest, and then you really get enthusiastic about that moment. Like there are some, a big shot from the corner with 3 minutes to go on a basketball game, typically a little bit higher, but just a routine layup through traffic with like in the middle of the second quarter is, you're not going to give as much there. But believe it or not, being too enthusiastic can be a bad thing, but so can being too under enthusiastic. It's you got to find a good balance when it comes to that
balance. Like that. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it's almost like you're maybe like a movie director or even a story writer, but just using your voice. Like you control the peaks and valleys, the ebbs and flows, and you're all using all these tools to keep the audience entertained.
Absolutely. And that's a big thing too about being on the radio, is that the fans can't see what's going on. They're only relying on your voice. And personally, people will ask me, do you prefer radio or television? I always say radio, because radio, you really have control over what the atmosphere feels like when you're going into a football game or a soccer match or a basketball game, because you can describe everything in the arena, from the sights, the sounds, what color the uniforms are, how full the arena is, the dirt or the turf coming off of a cleat or something of that sort. Like there's so many different things that you can do on the radio, whereas on TV, you have the video support where you have all your cameras that can shoot these things. And obviously you can reference it, but being able to really describe it has a whole different feeling in terms of being on the radio.
Do you kind of go back into that old style thought frame of, okay, this is how it used to be before TV when there was just radio? Do you think about that at all? Like, how should I come across because they can't see it?
Sometimes I do. And a lot of it too comes down to, people more likely than not are going to be watching on streaming. So you have to worry about the dying industry of the radio, but that doesn't change the fact that you're still on the radio, and that sports radio is not dying. As a matter of fact, sports radio is one of the top revenue sources in terms of audio entertainment, along with like audiobooks and music and things like that. But sometimes I do, but it kind of just depends.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off what you just said a little while back, with the radio, you're the forefront, whereas like on TV, the game is the forefront. So like since you're the primary author, you get to control their imagination. You pretty much displaying the game for them in their imaginations.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing about being on TV as well is that if you're lucky enough, you can have somebody with you.
Yeah.
Which your color commentator, who typically is either like a former player, former coach, things like that, your job as the play-by-play announcer is typically to make them sound good. You know, teeing up those softballs that you can just have them hit a home run right off the bat with, you know, to display their knowledge. And obviously, while, you know, sometimes you have that big call that you really want to have, sometimes that you need to have the analysis come in as well, which is what they're there for. They're there to analyze the game that is happening in front of you, because a lot of the time play-by-play announcers can be former athletes. One of my good friends, Chase Yance, is a former basketball player at the D3 level, and he is a fantastic play-by-play announcer, and he, you know, just did men's basketball down at UC as well. But then there's guys like me who played sports in high school but weren't particularly good, so after high school that kind of ended. So you know, I live vicariously through the sports that I work and the sports that I watch, but still the analysts are a very crucial part of not just TV but radio as well, for the same reason. But on the radio, typically the play-by-play announcer has to do more of the talking because they're describing everything, and the color analyst provides, you know, analysis of the play during like stoppages and whenever they can find time to fill in.
Absolutely.
So like in developing your on-air personality, did you develop your own like calling cards? You know, like Dick Vitale has his certain things, John Madden had his certain things. Like what is your slogan or flavor that?
Oh man, I'm still working on it. I one of these days I'll find something that is mine, and I will borrow from the toolboxes of other broadcasters. I will shamefully admit, because some of them are just great calls.
For
like,
sure.
And every young broadcaster, myself included, wants to, you know, yell bang as loud as he possibly can after someone knocks down a three. Like I'm guilty of doing that. I did it once a couple of games ago. Because, you know, and it's
was
a big
well
three. It was well received, and people did enjoy that. And they
nice.
But you know, it just comes naturally sometimes. You don't even realize that you say it until someone's like, hey, you say that a lot. Is that kind of your thing? I'm like, oh, well, you know. But I haven't found that like trademark calling card call yet.
Right.
I'm still young in my career, so it'll come.
How many years are you into broadcasting at this point?
This is my 5th year.
5th year. Okay.
Yes.
So like, has there been maybe like a technique or, you know, even a slogan that you wanted to say, but it was like a little too risky, so you decided to keep that in the bag?
I off the top of my head, I can't think of anything like that. A lot of the stuff that I think of, I do say, but you know, obviously I steer clear of like any like raunchy or inappropriate stuff. But you know, with FCC violations and stuff, there's no need to like
friendly, right?
Yeah, we like to, you know, there's no need to, you know, say stupid things, but you know, those never cross my mind while I'm on the air. But most of the things that I say, in terms of like the exciting plays and stuff, I usually go through with, and sometimes I'm like, ooh, that maybe not say that next time, but you know, sometimes it's, you know.
But typically you're getting really good feedback from your work. That's great.
Which I never would have expected, especially being so young. You know, being 22 years old in an industry full of veterans who are, you know, 50, 60, 70, and you know, but you'll be surprised how nice these people are. They want to help you. They want to give you feedback and like look at your demo tapes and everything like that. Dan Horde, one of the famous voices in Cincinnati who graduated from Syracuse, he's a big mentor of mine. He's looked at my basketball tape more than once and given me feedback on that, and it's made me a better broadcaster. Rich Hollenberg, who does a lot of ESPN college basketball with the Big 12 and is one of the voices on the pregame show for the Tampa Bay Rays, he has a cohort that he can bring in. He brings in college broadcasters and those who are looking to get into the industry and coaches them up and teaches them, you know, the ins and outs of that sort of thing. And it was very helpful for me. I did it. It's an 8-week course that I got a lot from that specifically, especially in different styles of calling on television, because that's what he specializes in, especially now.
Okay.
But broadcasters are just nice people typically, and I mean, you'll come across your divas, and it happens. It's in every industry that you have some divas out there, but everyone that I've come across has been very nice and very helpful, and they want to help you and they want you to succeed.
So, like, what are some of the best pieces of advice that you received that really helped you step your game up? Like, what did you realize that maybe you were doing wrong that you needed to stop, or what you were doing right and you just need to keep doing that?
I think one of the biggest pieces of advice actually comes from Rich Hollenberg, and it's to always say yes to any opportunity, no matter how big or how small, because you have to get the reps somehow, whether it's a high school basketball game in a gym in the middle of nowhere, or if it's calling college basketball on one of the biggest stages in the United States. Like, you should always say yes. Find a way to go to that game and get that rep, even if it means you're not going to get paid, because you'll get paid in having the experience to then use to get better, to then get a job later down the line.
Ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me being a coder, I that's something I would give a junior. Like, you may not necessarily just walk out of college and get the 6-figure job. You might have to work for free, but that's going to give you experience. It's going to help you build a portfolio. It's going to help you get better. Sometimes you have to pay your dues. I think, a lot of times people want everything early. They want everything immediately. They don't believe that there's a period of sacrifice, but there really is.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of kind of being that selfish. Like, I'd love a job right out of college, and to get one with a major network right out of college would be great. But I know that that's not very realistic.
Right,
and
right.
So, and some kids do get lucky, and they do get that job right out of college, and they're calling games on CBS already. I know a couple of people that they've gone to Syracuse, and they're already calling games on NBC and CBS, but that's just kind of the nature of, the landscape. It's uncertain. And sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes it takes you a couple of years to find your footing and actually get in the door. But as long as you're consistent and as long as you really want that job, you'll get that job in the end. It just may take you a little bit longer.
That's kind of like with music, where, you can go in the side door, you can go in the back door, sometimes the front door. There's many different ways to kind of get done what you're trying to get done, or get across what you're trying to get across. I imagine in broadcasting, there's, some carryover.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And there's no, I don't think there's a linear path to broadcasting, especially getting into like big broadcasting roles. And a lot of people will say, oh, you have to go through minor league baseball. That's kind of like one of the things that broadcasters always end up in minor league baseball, at least for a little bit. And sometimes they do. I'm working on trying to get into minor league baseball myself, but sometimes you don't. And sometimes you find your way in through different news stations in the middle of nowhere, and you're the sports assignment editor at some small station in the middle of Wisconsin, or sports talk radio in the middle of Idaho, like just some random place that was looking for somebody and then hired you on a whim. But
right.
Other times you get lucky.
Desperate, maybe.
And then other times you get picked up by a university that they're Division I and they're in, the Southland Conference, or you get lucky enough to get picked up by the SEC and go call a game at LSU, Alabama, or something. They'll hire you there, or
one of the bigger
you
ones.
end up getting really lucky and finding your way to a network and find your way up at ESPN or NBC or Fox or any of the big name networks. But it's not linear for sure, and it's not one way to do everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I see music, and a lot of musicians or music supervisors we've had on the show pretty much always say it's not linear. It's not a linear path. You're going to get a great opportunity at one point, and then you'll have nothing. Then you get a medium opportunity, and then maybe nothing. And then you get a great opportunity, and maybe you kind of coast there for a while. So I think there's a lot of carryover from music to broadcasting, back and forth, just from what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I've definitely been in that boat. And granted, I am young. I do want to preface that I am still only 22 going on 23 years old. So my periods of nothing are very long. But that's also to be expected. I'm still in college. I graduate in a month and then I'm really in the real world and I have to find
Yeah.
work there. But I getting the big opportunities that I've had so young really bode well for what
It's
I
crazy.
can do later in life. I've already called 5 Big 12 events on ESPN, which,
Wow.
it's most people can't say. And granted,
Yeah.
you can look at it, oh, you're on ESPN Plus. It's still the ESPN family of networks. It's the same flow,
Yeah.
it's the same programming, it's the same thing. It's just on their streaming service as opposed to ESPN2. But it's
Right.
not that different for considering what it is.
So I know like the competition had to be incredibly fierce to get these level of opportunities that you gotten. What do you think like really made you stand out and be chosen over, everyone else?
If you want my honest answer, luck. Um, but I like to think that I'm determined, and I like to think that I'm willing to put in the work and do the sports that people don't necessarily look at like they want to do. Like I'm a big advocate for women's sports. I'm a big advocate for giving them the coverage that they deserve and things like that. I've been working women's basketball for 3 years. I love women's soccer. It's some of the best game you're ever going to see. And with the growing leagues and professional women's volleyball and baseball and softball, the sky's the limit. And I think being willing to step into those roles that may not be as high paying at the time
Yeah.
are really going to bode well, especially, on the off chance that those leagues do get big. And then you're already in the building for a league that just exploded in popularity. And then they're getting deals with ESPN and Fox and they're being covered nationally and you're already there. And they're going to come to you and be like, hey, do you want to do this? Sure. I'm already here. I already know this
Right.
team. I already know the league. So it's a perfect opportunity to kind of springboard yourself into something bigger.
Right. So you're just always trying to say yes to every opportunity, even if
Yes.
it seems like insignificant in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've reached out to the Professional Women's Volleyball League, now named Major League Volleyball, and I've been in contact with their director of operations, and I've talked to them before, and I'm still hoping for a call eventually to maybe go up to Columbus and call a game for the Fury, but
That's a great point of you may not always get that the top opportunity that you want immediately, but sometimes you just have to coast on the lesser opportunity until you can get that bigger one. And I think those are those opportunities that that a lot of people overlook. That's where you can really develop your craft so that when you are on the big stage, you already know what to do because just because you have the big opportunity, it doesn't necessarily mean you're available for it. Like sometimes in football, the quarterback that sits on the bench for a couple of years, he ends up being better because he had time to develop.
absolutely. I mean,
Right.
and another thing too about taking those small opportunities, you shouldn't treat them like small opportunities. You should
Yeah.
treat them like you're calling the biggest game of your life.
100%.
Every game, no
Yeah.
matter if you're calling a high school football game, that's the Super Bowl. You got to call that game like it's the Super Bowl. You're calling an NAIA baseball game, that's the World Series. You're calling some soccer match anywhere,
Your
that's the World Cup.
your level of enthusiasm needs to be like up here.
It needs
Right?
to be needs to be the same across
Needs to
every
be there.
game that you call,
Consistency.
because
Yeah.
if you're calling games like you're uninterested, then people are going to think that that's what you're going to call games like when you get to the biggest stage, and you
I
don't
see.
want that. You want to
Right.
be able to present the best version of yourself on the air, no matter what.
Yeah, all of those games are your audition tapes. Like people,
Yeah.
they're gonna see that and determine whether, hey, I want him at this higher level.
Absolutely, and that's how I treat a lot of my games too. Every chance I get, and I had called a low level high school volleyball tournament earlier for Southwest Ohio, and I treated that like I was on ESPN. And
Mhm.
I had done a football game earlier in July for an all-star game, and it was high school East-West all-star game. Called
Right.
that like I was calling the national championship on ESPN. because
they probably really appreciate that though.
They did. I got a lot of
Coming at it from,
compliments.
you're coming at it from a powerful, from a fierce place, basically.
Yeah, I got a lot of compliments, not just from, my director and producer on that show, but also families who, who maybe don't know me, but also those who do know me. And I was able to talk to my athletic director back because it was at my old high school when this game that happened. And my athletic director was there and he heard it and he texted me later and was like, man, that sounded like it was an ESPN product. And I was like, and that's what I try to do. So,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great that you're really serious about your craft and you're focused on consistency. Like, you can tell me whether you agree or not, but a lot of times, if you want these higher opportunities, you have to look like, you're that. Like, if you want to be a manager, you have to look like a manager before they promote you into that. And a lot of times, like, people, they have one job and they just look like that level of job that they're at. When they get asked to do more, they're like, oh, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting paid for that. But really, that's your opportunity to move up and shine.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I've been told is dress like the job that you want, not the job that you have.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest things I've been told. And it applies to especially how you act too. Act like the job that you want, not the job that you have. And that's what I've been trying to do for the past 5 years.
That's powerful.
So can you tell us about a little bit of like dressing for success, dressing for the job? Like, what do you believe is really important in your industry?
So do you mean like actual dress? Because I can't go into that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So in terms of like actual dress, suit, tie, typically things like that, but also just in terms of just trying to be successful in general, you gotta want to put in the work. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be long. You have long days. You have long nights. Holidays, weekends. You're sacrificing time with your friends and your family. I barely have a social life, and coming from a college kid, that's it's its own thing, but it's rewarding in the end because putting in this work now just means that you have time to enjoy it later. And not to say that you don't enjoy it now, because I do enjoy this now. I enjoy the work. I enjoy, preparing for every game. Like it's the biggest game in my career. I will probably be doing that after we're done here, for a game that's, tomorrow, the date that, from the date that this is being recorded. But it's, it takes a lot. It takes dedication. It takes drive. You have to want to do this. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that there is a lot of work that goes into this. You can't just walk into an arena and say, "Oh, I got this," with just a roster in your hand.
I'm your guy.
Yeah, like that's not a thing. You have to put in the work, and you have to want to be successful in order to be successful. Or
because it makes me think, back to, okay, everyone wants to be like Mike. Everyone wants to be a Michael Jordan, but no one actually wants to put in the work. It's raining out, you're shooting free throws, you're going one-on-one with a buddy. It's raining. You don't want to be out there, but you are. Or kind of like Tiger Woods hitting the ball. Like, how many times do you think he had to hit that ball before he could get it to the level that he's at?
Oh, yeah.
But people don't see that. They say, oh, this guy's so great, blah, blah, blah. But really, there's a lot, like you're saying, a lot of dedication, willpower, readiness. A lot of these factors all come into play.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to be the next Mike Tirico or Kevin Harlan or Jim Nance, but they took, massive steps, and they grinded for this job, and it's not easy to do. I feel like I've said that a million times, but it's not. It just reinforces the fact that this is not an easy job.
Yeah, the reason I asked you about dressing is because, like, people, they judge you by your appearance, and for me, I'm in software where it's pretty laid back. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because like when I first got in the industry, I used to go into like this fairly high end corporate building, like with sweatpants and a t-shirt on, and I might be in the elevator with a lawyer, and even though they didn't say anything, you probably know that they're thinking like, what is this guy doing here?
Oh,
Who
absolutely.
is this guy? Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
that's a big thing too. You don't want to show up to a broadcast and wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants. But you're coming in your best dress. I'll go back to something Rich Hollenberg said to me was, you got to go and pick out a couple of your best suits. Go. They don't have to be the nicest thing in the world per se, but make yourself look the part. Make
Yeah.
Yep.
suit, tie, blazer, all that. And I'll even do that occasionally for big games on the radio where, I'm a Homer radio. So normally I'll come in with black pants of some kind, black slacks, and polo, University of Cincinnati branded polo, because I'm the
Okay.
home radio guy. So
Right.
I have that leisure where I can, if I so choose, wear something like that. But even sometimes on big games like the Crosstown Shootout, one of the biggest college basketball rivalries, arguably in the country, I'll dress nice for that. I
Right.
will show up and I will want to look good on the sideline, because as the radio guy, you are on TV, just not as much, and you're typically a really small dot as they kind of pan across and follow the ball across the court. But you still want to look the part, no matter what, because people are judging you. Like you said, people are going to be judging you based on what you're wearing, and it's
100%.
the
Yeah.
unfortunate truth.
100%. I've always felt like when you go for a job interview, when I think back to when I was 18, my first job interview was for a music school. And, I went in, I had just kind of regular clothes on, but it was more of like, you dress down type of place. And I just remember I went in and I shook the guy's hand, old school style, shook his hand, gave him a CD, said, "Hey, this is me. Check this out." And he was like, "You know what, man? Like, I really appreciate you presenting yourself that way. Coming in, shaking the hand." He's like, no one does that anymore. I was like, "Oh, that's just what my dad taught me. Be respectful, and kind of like what you're saying, dress the part, dress for that job that you want 5 years from now. Don't come in with the jersey on and some sweats. Like, that's cool in certain environments, but like you're saying, you want to come prepared for these events."
Yeah, you want to come confident too, but not too confident. You don't want to be cocky coming into an interview, because then they'll be like, "Just get out of my office. I don't want it." But,
Right? Who is this kid?
yeah, right.
Yeah, I think a mistake a lot of people make is they look at these exceptional cases and they think it applies to them. Like, oh, Mark Cuban, he can go walk around in flip flops and a t-shirt. But, he's a billionaire, and when he goes to a business meeting, he's not wearing that. So
No,
Yeah.
and he is also a billionaire. He's already made it, so he doesn't care.
Doesn't matter.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So like what are some of the other things? Because something that I've seen before, like in tech, a lot of times engineers, they just want to come in, they just want to solve the problem. They don't care about dressing. They're like, oh, I shouldn't have to do that. Like in your industry, what are some of the things that people feel like they shouldn't have to do, but it really is like a small thing that helps determine like their place in the industry?
Oh man, that's a good question. Something that me as a broadcaster that I feel like I shouldn't have to do.
Right, but
Right? Okay.
yeah,
I don't know, because the thing with me is that I do both production and on-air talent. So a lot of things
Right.
that, if there's a problem on the production side, I'm more than willing to step in and help. I love to step in. I love production almost as much as I love being on air. It's a very interesting thing to do. I love learning about the tech that's behind it, the coding, and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like some broadcasters don't really want to be on that side of things,
Sure.
which is understandable, because you want to get paid to talk, and which is fine, and I love getting paid to talk, quite frankly. But a lot of announcers and broadcasters want to stick to not being on the tech side of things, and they will do it if they have to, but it's not something that a lot of them seek out, I feel like, because and especially when you go to school like at the University of Cincinnati, where the media production program kind of is encompassed by the connection with ESPN or like Ball State, where they have the same thing with their Ball State Sports Link, or at Ohio University, they have some of the best journalism and production programs in the country, along with like Syracuse. But
Nice.
a lot of broadcasters will go through, those tech things, but then after they graduate college, it don't really seek it out as often, I feel like. But I could be wrong completely, and if someone wants to correct me, feel free. But
Yeah.
I would probably say that. But there are also broadcasters who will do both, and they love both, and they would gladly do both.
Well, let me ask you this. If you were to be able to go back in time and tell yourself on, day one of the job, you had some really important tip to give yourself, what would you tell yourself?
I feel like it's cliche, but don't doubt yourself. And that's it, because I deal with a lot of self-doubt. I do. And I feel like that's a normal thing, but, and it probably is cliche of me to say, to just don't doubt yourself, but it's true.
Right.
You have to be confident in yourself, especially in this industry where you yourself are your biggest selling point, and being confident in yourself and presenting yourself confidently, especially on TV or on the radio, is extremely important. So that's probably what I'd say.
Yeah, I think just understanding the cycle of learning and even fear, like psychology of it all, is very important. Like no matter what you do, if it's something you've never done before, you're going to be awkward, you're going to be fearful, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So you have to allow yourself to make the mistake. But if you keep on doing, keep on getting better, eventually you're going to get to a point where it becomes natural and you become competent at it. But it's just like overcoming that fear and overcoming the frustration of failure. I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, it comes with reps too. You got to get those repetitions, and it's like working out. You can't just do it once and expect to be perfect at it, or expect to build muscle like that.
Sure.
You have to keep doing it, and you have to be consistent with it. And it comes down to almost everything. If you're working out, if you're being a broadcaster, if you're being a musician, if you're anything really, practice makes perfect, and that goes with just about anything.
So you kind of mentioned sacrifice earlier, because I know in order to get to the level that you're at, you've had to forego a lot of the parties and maybe the hanging out. Do you think like you'll look back and feel like you've missed out or anything, or do you feel like the sacrifice has been worth it?
I think it'll be worth it. I think in the end, I will say that some things you can't miss. Like some things you have to be like, hey, I can't do this. I can't do this gig.
Yeah.
And you have to be there, especially for big family events, things like that. But so some of the parties or sporting events that maybe I could have just gone as a fan, I end up working instead. And it's almost just as rewarding when you're working in sports, because you're getting paid to be there. I work for the Bengals, and I've been at almost every Bengals home game since 2022. And but on that same vein, like some of these, I rarely go to college games as a fan anymore, because I'm working, and
Right.
that's okay. And sometimes I'm missing going out with friends or something like that, but I'm trying to perfect my craft, and I would like to think that my friends understand that I'm trying to make it big, and then give my friends a little bit of the pride of being like, hey, I know that guy.
I know that guy. He's a success.
And maybe giving back some of that time that I've lost. In the end, when I have made it, I can go back and have that time, and I can. It just goes also with
keeping
in touch with those people and being able to
recreate
their lives. Yeah,
you could recreate it at any point. So why get bogged down to, I missed that party, I miss going out with this girl, all that stuff. You're going to forget about that. You're going to remember, this is my job, and I have the XYZ job because I put in that footwork, because I put in that elbow grease when I was younger. And I get the sense that that's exactly where you're at right now. You're putting in all the hours, all the prep, and that's, and you're doing really well because of it. So it's awesome, man.
And thankfully for me, I'm not much of a party guy. I'm more of a homebody. I like to stay home, play my video games, and watch sports on my TV, and hang out with my friends and do that kind of in a more chill manner. So I usually just do things after the games are done.
Yeah.
So so I have these sacrifices, but it's also a lot of working with your friends who they're your friends. They'll find ways to hang out with you on your schedule as well. And I'm thankful that all of my friends that I have, they will do that for me, and they're willing to be like, oh, okay, well, we'll wait for you, and you can come
Yeah.
later, or show up late. And I show up late to a lot of things too, and I'll
Yeah.
be like, hey,
That's
I'll
a
be
real
there after
friend.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's a
sometimes
real
I'm
friend.
showing up in a suit, and that's fine. Going up to a bar with a
Yeah.
suit on, and everyone's like, why is he wearing a suit in a bar?
Well, for sure you'll be called sir by the staff.
Absolutely.
I've noticed that. If I go in anywhere with a suit and say, "Oh, sir, how can I help you?" And whereas if I just walk in, with a t-shirt on, sweatpants, they're gonna be like, okay, next order up.
Yeah.
They're not gonna call me sir.
No, yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. I did that recently. Actually, I went to a bar after a game with some of the crew members of that ESPN show, and I walked in a suit, and I was the only one. I was actually the one of two people in the bar with a suit on, and I looked
Okay.
at the guy, and we were like, yeah, well, because we were both wearing suits. It was funny.
Interesting.
So yeah, I know like balance is really important because obviously when you're younger you want to work hard, but you don't want to completely neglect family or friends because what's the purpose of fame if you don't have anyone to share it with, or riches if you're just isolated. So making time for your friends and family as well as the other things you enjoy, like how do you make sure you're finding balance and not burning out?
When I find that answer, I will let you know. But it's tough. It's a tough balance to try and figure out how long to do these things for. And my research, like when I'm writing notes and doing research, that time fluctuates on occasion too, especially when I have multiple games in a week. I will try my best to narrow things down and take more breaks because I'm researching more than one game. It's almost like information overload when you have 2 or 3 games in a week, and they're all 3 different sports. So you're trying
That's
to
tough.
do different rosters for different schools and different teams, and it's a whole big thing. But it I think it comes down to self-discipline too, and knowing your limits, which I, as a young kid, still don't really know my limits, and I typically push myself past them all the time.
Yeah.
But people will say, oh, this is the time to do it. Push yourself to your limits and work super hard because whatever, or don't work super hard because you'll be doing that for the rest of your life. And I'm like, well, which one is it?
Right.
But
Right.
it's tough, and it's still something that I'm learning how to do, I think.
But you really enjoy it. Seems like you really enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say like work hard, but don't feel guilty about taking a break because I used to, be super hardcore, try to study all day. Then you just get burnt out,
Yeah.
and then you end up taking
Yeah.
months off, and that boom and bust cycle. You like working out. You can't work out 2 days a week, take 3 months off, then come back, work super hard a couple of days a week. So
And expect results.
No, yeah.
Right.
Which is something that I'm struggling with too. I'm trying to get back in the gym, and it's truly been a struggle to try and get back
yeah.
in that routine. But it's such a hard thing to do, and I feel like no one's perfect at it. No one really knows how to properly do a work-life balance. Maybe I'm wrong, and hopefully those people that have found out that way to have a good work-life balance can start their own podcasts and teach people how to do that, because that would be really nice.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned like, you play video games and things to decompress. So like what games have you been playing lately?
So I play a lot of Overwatch, unfortunately, and that's not very much decompressing. If you know anything about online video games and the landscape of first-person shooters. But I mean, I'll stick around, play like Minecraft, things like that. Those chill games that make you feel good. Play a couple of story games here and there. I'm replaying the Batman Arkham series right now. things like that. I like to play those silly multiplayer games with my friends too. You know, those like goofy co-op games that you can find on like Steam or something. They're like $5, and you
Yeah,
play them
right.
once, and you're like, okay, this was funny, but now I'm gonna
Let me move
never
on.
touch this again. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
So like where do you kind of see yourself in like 5 to 10 years? Like at what is the role that you foresee yourself in, and like what is your plan to get to that role?
My goal in the next 5 years is to be a consistent contributor to college sports at on any network that'll take me, preferably
Right.
ESPN, because
Right.
that's the workflow I'm most familiar with. But I won't turn down jobs at Fox or CBS. Um, I love college sports. College sports are very entertaining to me. They have a lot of rich stories in them, a lot of fun atmospheres to go to. I mean, you think of
Right.
some of the biggest games in college sports, the Iron Bowl for Alabama Auburn, the game between Ohio State Michigan, Duke UNC rivalries. I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to college athletics and just the amazing stories that come out of it. And I think to get there, I'm just gonna have to keep doing what I've been doing and just keep grinding and just keep working myself up there and keep trying to find ways to better myself and my craft and make those connections, because a lot of the time it's not in this industry specifically, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And
Right. I
obviously,
think so many things are like that, right?
yeah, and obviously knowing things helps, and I'm glad that I do know things, but
Yeah.
I'm also glad that I know people, and I know a lot of people and have been in touch with a lot of people. I'm a member of the Sports Talent Agency of America, and they have a directory of every network, every radio station, every regional broadcasting, what have you, available to all its members. And I've been reaching out to schools and networks as well. I've been in talks with members at ESPN and things like that. So, just trying to keep finding my way to an open door and hoping and praying that something opens up.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you're doing a hell of a lot of networking.
Yes.
It's something I do a lot for the show. I do the marketing. So
Mhm.
I do a lot of networking pretty much on LinkedIn. In
Mm.
recent days, I've been on Instagram because trying to get different clientele, but it's a lot of work, and
Yeah.
it's not always fun. Oftentimes, it's not fun marketing, but you have to do your research. You have to ask. In the same way I asked you, do you want to come on our show?
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
said yes, and now
Yeah.
here we are. So, it's just kind of doing that over and over and over and over, which can get boring, but that's just part of the process of marketing. I see it as.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the process too when you're trying to sell yourself, and it's also being active on social media and posting the things that you're doing, which I'm very bad about doing when it comes to my job. I'm very bad about posting myself on social media, but it helps. Shockingly enough, posting things on Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn for that matter, really help. And being able to connect with people on social media, I've connected with a couple of broadcasters myself on LinkedIn and other social media platforms, and pick their brains, been able to have good conversation. So
Right.
social media, as bad as it may be in some instances, can also be a big help in others. So it just depends on how you use it.
Yeah, that kind of answers that question I asked you earlier about one thing that you don't necessarily want to do, but you have to do.
There we go.
There
See?
we go.
Full circle.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I know me and Kev, we don't really care, too much for the social media stuff. So we recently brought a guy on the team who specifically is going to be doing the social media. So me and Kev are really happy about that.
That's good.
yeah, I think
Just let somebody else handle that stuff.
it's hard to do
Exactly.
things by yourself. You have to. There's no massive company that's just one person, so you have to work with others, and if they have a skill set that complements yours, they're doing something that you don't necessarily want to do. It helps you focus on what you want to actually do. So
Yeah,
Frees you up.
Yeah. I unfortunately don't have the money for an agent, so broke college kid. So it's a little
One day.
luxury. Yeah, one day.
One day.
my agent, my private jet, and all my
Yeah.
all my
Do
money.
you
But
think long term, do you see yourself switching to something else besides college sports, or you think you always want to remain in that single lane?
my my dream game to call is, funnily enough, the MLS Cup, which I feel like is not one that people are like, oh, MLS Cup. That's strange
Right.
because you're like, oh, the Super Bowl or the World Series or the Stanley Cup or the NBA Finals, which I would also love, to be fair.
Sure.
But I'm a
Sure.
big soccer head. I love soccer. I would love to also call the World Cup at some point. That would be amazing. If I could have the honor of calling some of the best soccer in the world. But I would also love to find my way into the soccer landscape, whether it be in the MLS or elsewhere. I would go overseas if it meant having a big time job for calling soccer, but uh, uh, it just depends. It depends on where life takes me and what's offered to me. So, you know.
It's a great perspective to have because you really, we don't know what's promised tomorrow. We don't know what's
Oh,
going to happen, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, we have no idea. You could walk in front of a bus,
yeah.
you crossing the street, you get hit, lights out.
Mm,
So, anything could happen. So I think, yeah, remaining open to all these different opportunities, I think that's probably gotten you to where you are today and
yeah,
will probably get you way further ahead in the future because you're doing it now. You're
absolutely.
consistent now. So
Yeah.
I commend you for that. That's awesome.
It helps too that the whole just say yes thing, it goes with any sport. I could get offered a job doing water polo tomorrow and I'd be like, oh sure, why not?
Sure.
I'll figure it out. It'll be great.
Mhm.
That's how I felt about lacrosse. I was like, all right, figure it out.
Give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting to the top of the hour, man. It was fantastic having you on, hearing your story. Before we get out of here, did you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts, and where can they find you at?
Yeah. You can find me. I believe all my handles are Herzog _ sports on Instagram, Twitter, things like that. LinkedIn's Ethan Herzog. It's just my name. I'm happy to any prospective broadcasters that are out there and really want to kind of rack my brain. I know I'm a young guy that doesn't have the experience of a Mike Tirico, but I do have a little bit of experience under my belt, and I'm willing to
Right.
share anything else that I have.
Nice.
Awesome. Man.